What's up, bankers?
Hello, Venkas.
How is everybody doing?
How are you doing? Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you happy about Mattia Binotto being not at Ferrari anymore? Or are you sad? How are you feeling
I,
about
I
it?
was sad, but now I was happy, but now I'm sad because he brought me so much. Like, I mean, it's like we're the dogs who caught the fire engine, you know?
Right. It's like, what do we do with it now? We've been
Yeah.
calling for him to get fired for 7 months, and now he's fired, and we're like, wait, what do we do now?
Well, however you're doing, you're about to be doing a lot fucking better because we have current IndyCar driver, former F2 driver, former Ferrari Academy. I mean, this guy is like the Forrest Gump of he's touched, but without being stupid, he's touched every part of the F1 ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, Callum Ilott. Thank you so much for
I mean,
coming.
Forrest Gump is a bit of a comparison. I haven't heard that one before. I
I
can
said
run, but not
without
that
being
fast.
stupid, without being because Forrest Gump, he touched everything. He was everywhere. He was
Yeah, he just kept running and running, as they
yeah.
say.
He had, and you know what? He had the base. That's one thing that he definitely had was the base.
Yes.
He did. He did. How you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Amazing.
Thanks for making the time. We thought that you were in Dubai, but now you're in London. So were you in Dubai?
I did. I was at Abu Dhabi, and
Okay,
then
okay.
I stayed on in Dubai. I think there was a F2 driver who's a little bit ill, so they might have not been testing. So I was like, maybe I might be there if they don't do a day. And then that didn't happen, so I had a nice little holiday in Dubai afterwards.
Gotcha. Nice.
So that's just the life of a driver. You just pop into Abu Dhabi because maybe you have to do something, and then it was all just for naught.
Yes, no. You meet some people, maintain some connections, establish new
There you
ones.
go.
All
Right. We're
networking,
gonna
isn't
be
No
it?
such thing as a
yeah
way. Yeah, I got it.
yeah we're gonna be getting into that aspect of like the life and the lifestyle. Who are you there? Like what team would you have been there with?
I wasn't with the team. I
Okay,
just
you were
was
just kind of
floating
like,
around.
okay, gotcha.
I was
Okay,
I was kind
so
of staying with Alpha and Ferrari,
Okay,
but I
gotcha,
wasn't
gotcha,
with a team.
okay.
gotcha.
Okay, so the first, so like in case, like for some people might not know who you are, but so we're gonna just ask you a question, so people will immediately be like, "Holy shit, this guy has seen some shit." You cannot answer the question, but we really hope you do. So for those of you who don't know, we've read that you were punched in the face by Nikita Mazepin twice.
On the one occasion, but yeah, I think he hit me
Right.
twice.
2 hits.
2 hits. He hit you twice. Can you
No,
walk?
one clean one, and the other one I don't know where that one went.
Gotcha.
Okay. Can you walk us? And apparently, it was in free practice. Like, what a sight! He hit you over something in free. Can you walk us through this thing?
So what's funny about this? Okay, look, we got along afterwards, but things happen. It's like a street fight in a certain
That's
way.
such a
But
British understatement. Things
I,
happen.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
I don't really care now. But no, like it was quite funny because in all the, should we say, documentation, it was that I did something in the free practice. It was actually him. He came out the pits and blocked me. So then the next lap, I just fully sent it into turn one at Budapest, and yeah, I mean, it was a good move, I would say. And I don't think he took a liking to it. And yeah, then we're having a bit of argument back and forth, and I probably said some things which, well, I'm good with words, and unfortunately, I got what hit me.
Do you say you had it coming?
Not really, but yeah, I didn't expect it. But
was there
it's
some
life, isn't it?
was there some stuff building up before? Was there some tension before this incident?
No, not really. I've known him for
Okay.
years.
Yeah.
We were teammates in karting 2012, 2013. Look, it's one of those things. I don't want to dwell on it. Mistakes happen, but when you're young, you
Wow.
do stupid stuff
Wow,
anyway.
because we really want to dwell on it. But so you get on great with him, and despite his like supervillain status in the F1 world, you even though he hits you in the face, and I watched Chasing the Dream the other day to get to know your journey in F2. And he was driving his kink seemed like it was running Yuki Tsunoda off the road.
Look, he's an aggressive driver. Maybe you could argue an aggressive person as well. But no, with him, I've known him for a long time, and to be fair, like, okay, no one's perfect. And I just learned to see past, should we say, things which other people don't like in a certain way. I go, okay, that's them. I know him for this, this, and this. He's all right.
Gotcha.
You look at the positives.
No, you just know, like, there are some people that you go, oh, okay, he's just arrogant, right? When someone meets them, they go, oh, like they're really arrogant, and you go, yeah, but he's always been like that. So you just have to accept that that's that part and just move on. But like that's not
Right.
with him, that's not the case. But that's just a good example of some people I know where it's like people get offended. I just like that's
You're
them.
like that's just Nikita.
Exactly.
Gotcha. We like drivers that people traditionally don't like. Like we love Fernando Alonso. We like
yeah, but they're the characters, you know.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
there is stuff that isn't accepted in today's world, which is understandable and fair enough.
Right.
But these people are characters, and you know, if you have everyone just saying the same stuff and doing the same thing within the rules all the time, what are you watching?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Totally. We agree. Okay. So there's no
I'm very
bad.
neutral. I'm very
neutral. You're neutral.
You have to be.
But hold on. Was there a scuff? Did you just hold restraint in that moment? Did you want to punch him in the face?
I did because I thought, to be fair, I knew if I'd probably do something, I'd get in trouble for it. So I thought that the punishments would be greater than they were. So that's why I was like, I'm not going to do anything. And plus, I think he did MMA for a good 4 years. And I knew that.
So you did a quick assessment.
And he did he had his helmet on and I didn't.
Oh, so Jesus.
Of course. And then that wasn't it's not that I'd taken it off 5-10 minutes before. So I had no idea this was gonna happen. But yeah, you gotta be smart about these things, you know.
Right.
It's not something that you want to continue doing.
Your hands are valuable. You can't be breaking your hand on his Dilbert head.
To be fair, even when he doesn't have the helmet on, it kind of feels like he's got the helmet on. But I always wonder.
Hang on. So is this what I'm most known for outside of? Well, actually, in Drive to Survive?
No. We just no. There's.
Is that the first headline?
No. It was just did it. Everybody knows. Everybody, like, if they Google you, they'll see that you came in second in F2. You were like as close. You know, you made it to the tippy top of the F1 ladder, but like this is a juicy story that nobody talks about. And I've listened to you talk about your F2 career, your illustrious karting career, but no one's ever asked you about this. I haven't heard. I wanted to know.
Yeah, we were curious.
I mean,
and we just did an episode on Nikita, so we were like, wait. We have to ask him about this.
You've been asked a lot about your amazing career. I just
yes, that's fair enough. I do see where you're coming from here. No, I mean, yeah. Again, people make mistakes. I don't think it was the best decision he could have made. I don't think I deserve getting punched in the face, but I'm good with words. No, it's life. I mean, we move on. I mean, until today, I only thought about it 4 months ago, so you know, I didn't really.
Gotcha. Any other drivers in your day that you've had little scraps with that, you know, even like friends, people that like we know that you're close with a lot of, you know, drivers that are in F1 now who we would know. Any stories of?
You'll like the F1 stuff. I won't dwell on the other stuff. So me and George used to hate each other.
Okay.
In karting, because he was like British champion of everything and stayed in England to kind of go up. And I went straight to Europe as soon as I could at like 11. And I think at 12, 13, we kind of converged and we were racing together in Europe. And, you know, we were always at the front and fighting together. And not that there was any problems then, but it was just, you know, like, oh, he's good, I'm good, we don't like each other kind of thing. And then there was one test session in 2013 where I would have been like 14 or 15. And I think he tapped me just a little bit. So then I tapped him, but I didn't do it hard enough. and I didn't get a good enough of a gap. And then he basically launched me into another corner, and then I was off. So at this point, we really didn't like each other because it's not like you're doing too much, but it's enough to go, oh, what a dick. And then again, this is another good one. So we were down in the south of Italy testing. It was me and Nikita, and I was in the senior go-karts and he was in the juniors, and it was raining. And the only way I could keep up because of the difference in the karts was to cut the corners. And at this track, you could very much easily cut the corners to maintain the time. And there was probably about 1.8 seconds difference between the karts. And he cut one corner and then came on the track at a bad angle and side by side and sent me into the grass. And I slid along the grass as karts in the wet do and went up the barrier and flipped. So I flipped in a test session, thanks to Nikita, my teammate at the time. And I had the cart stuck on me, and I was very small for a 14-year-old. And the first and only person to stop was Mr. George Russell, who at the time we didn't like each other. And he runs over, he's like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just stuck. If you could get it off me, that would be brilliant." Lifts it up, and then after that, we've been mates.
Oh wow!
How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I saw that you tweeted after with the Joe crash, and that he got out of the cart and he ran, and you mentioned that. That's a great story.
Well, it's a small thing, but
Yeah.
you know, when you're always competing against all these people, normally no one cares. So
Right.
and
Well,
then at that point, then we
yeah.
became teammates in F3 in 2015, and then I've known him for quite a while since then.
That seems to be a bit of George's style, is that he's like this really nice, polite guy off the track, but then on track, he's like a bit of like he'll put you into the wall if he needs to be.
No, he's normally like an aggressive, calculated driver, but the problem is like it's so very easy to misjudge a situation. And I think the thing is that these opportunities that, should we say, starts in F1, something will come and you'll be like, oh, I can put the car there, and then someone drives across like Kota turn one. Right. And then you have social media hating you because you put the car in a position that really, if everyone had just followed through, you'd be all right. No. So he is a normally quite calculated guy. I think you're in a good position, in a good seat, going for opportunities, and you make mistakes, but I mean most of them all when they started made some mistakes as well.
And how are you with Lando? Because I know you guys karted in the same.
We were, I would say, really close when we were like 9-10 karting. And I spent at the tracks. I spent quite a lot of time with him, and then we went and did different paths. Met again at 2014, and then met again in 2017. And I don't know. I think he's a super nice kid, very, very talented. But we just didn't like communicate as much since that point. I mean, again, he kind of took off since 2017 anyway, so he's kind of busy for should we say some other people. But no, he's a nice guy. I don't know, kind of stopped talking once we went our different ways.
Sure.
And how do you decide, like when you're a kid and you realize that like you hit different and this is more than maybe just a hobby? How do you decide, like you say that George like stayed in England and you decided to go, like how do you make these sort of decisions? Like how are these, like, because it seems like there's many ways to roam in terms of how do you make these calculations?
I mean, at that point, there was maybe one or two routes that you could kind of take anyway, and I was led by actually the current owner of High Tech GP, Ollie Oakes. It was just me and him when we were karting, and then he was making the decisions. He raced in GP3, F3, so he kind of had known the pathway that you need to do. And then once I got to about 15, 16, I was making the decisions myself. I got close enough.
And then you got to Red Bull. So how did Red Bull approach you? When did that happen?
Ollie set up a meeting in Silverstone, middle of 2014. I think I was leading the European Championships at the time. I won it anyway after that, but in the middle of that time. And then sat down with Helmut Marko on the Friday of Silverstone, and he was like, "How old are you?" And then he interrupted me and then was like, "Okay, so yeah, you're going to do F4 next year, French F4, because you're too young to do anything else." And I'm sat there going, I think I'm old enough to do F3. And Max was doing F3 that year. So I was like, no, I think I can compete in F3 because I turn 16 in November. And he's like, okay, you'll do F3 then. You'll do it with Carlin. You will send you the contract in a couple of weeks, and then off you go.
So you were 15 years old and you're sitting down with Helmut Marko.
Yeah, I wish I'd have done that when I was 18, 19. It probably would have been a bit different, but
Were you terrified?
not terrified, but just you don't know what to expect. At that point, you're all young and innocent, and if someone says you're doing this or you're an idiot, you go, yeah, you're right. Whereas now I'd be like, okay, why do you think we should be doing that? Because I think this is better. Whereas when you're young, you just say yes, okay, yes, you're right.
So
Yes,
do
boss.
you have like like if you were sitting with Helmut Marko now at 15, what would you have done differently?
Uh, well, now I know a bit more about him as a person and what he enjoys. You can get on the good side of people by having a bit of fun. Um, and I think, to be fair, I could have been a bit more confident with how I was doing and what I was doing because they were comparing me to Max Verstappen at the time, and he'd had 2 years and 76 days of testing Formula 3 cars, and I'd had 4 months and about 10 days of testing going into a Formula 3 series, and you expect me to be like that. And for a bit of fun, you can go and look at the guys in my series in 2015. Charles Leclerc finished fourth. Russell finished seventh or eighth in his second year of cars. I finished 11th or 12th, I think, in the championship out of a 39 car grid. It wasn't, I didn't do a horrendous job. I just didn't do an amazing job compared to some of the guys, but it wasn't bad for a first year in cars.
Yeah, what's that in terms of that jump from you've karted for years and now all of a sudden you're in a car, and like what's the learning curve?
Honestly, I took to it quite quickly. The problem I struggled with was like the last little part. So say we were testing and I'd be 2/10 off, 3/10 off Giovinazzi in testing, and you're like, shit, okay, this is good. Like you're very close. Have you lost me? Oh, no, okay,
No.
sorry. You guys froze for a second.
Yeah, you froze for a second, but no,
yeah,
it's good.
We're good.
Yeah.
You're 2/3 off, and you're like, oh shit, this is good. And then you come to like the race and the qualifying, and because they know should we say the format, how it works in the qualies, how the car's going to feel, but all like subconsciously, that gap gets stretched from like 2/3 to 4/5. And the other teams, they're not sandbagging as much anymore. So you go from like P3, P4 in all the testing to suddenly P8, P9, P10, and you're like, start to get pushed down a little bit. And it was just that last little bit. So I could get there and close. And I mean, that's closer than a lot of guys got on their first years. But that last kind of 2-3 tenths to be competitive, I only found that until I drove the next year.
Right.
So that was what I found the toughest. But in actual fact, I mean, most of my races I was finishing between 10th and 15th anyway, and then had a couple of good ones, a couple of bad ones.
Right.
And you attribute that to your lack of testing and lack of experience with like a car?
I mean, it all makes a difference, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's specifically because of that. It's more just the subconscious and the time you have. I mean, the testing, yes, it makes a massive difference. All these guys you see in F1, maybe excluding George, have done massive testing programs, which you wouldn't have heard about. And that makes a massive difference just to put you in a perspective. I mean, like take Nikita, he had 2 years of 14 days in Mercedes F1 cars for 2020 and 2020. No, wait, he drove in 2019 and 2020.
So I want to get into this F3, F2, how to evaluate, because this is the only way that, I'm sure teams have other ways to evaluate these guys, like in, tests and stuff, but like as a fan and, we look at these guys in F3 and F2, and this is how we evaluate, like, okay, who's going to make it onto the next level? Like who's the best of that crop? And we're being led to believe that this is sort of a level playing field, that these cars are spec cars and it's relatively fair. And if you come out on top, and people say, Lance Stroll won F3 and this guy won F2 and Mick Schumacher won F2. So, so this is sort of a meritocracy. How fair are these, like, are the cars really simple? Are the cars really equal? And are there these hidden things that we're not seeing, like testing?
Because
that
in
make
well,
it-
in F1 it's so blaringly obvious that it's just like, oh well, it's like Williams will always be here and you know whatever. But then there must be ways in which, like, if you have the proper funding, if you have like X, Y, and Z, that you can have an edge on a team that maybe doesn't have that, right?
Yeah, so I mean, first thing, I can't say too much because
Yeah,
I don't want to,
Sure.
should we say, disregard anything. But everything is not as it seems in a certain way.
Blink twice if you're safe. Yeah.
And you'll see if anyone's ever said anything, they do get slaughtered for saying stuff.
Sure.
So again, I'm not going to dwell into that, but yeah, it's not as it seems, but you could never prove anything, even if you tried. You just know that something's not right.
Sure.
But on the other side, yeah, there's difference between the teams. You know, you always want to be in one of the best teams. Otherwise, you're just sometimes wasting your time. You can show what you're doing, but of course, no one really cares at that point unless you're winning, which is tough for people like me who didn't have massive political favor, and kind of had to put yourself in the shop window to be able to be in a good team. And yeah, I would say that there is some stuff that if you look at it and go, oh, that's a bit strange, you're probably right. And then when you get to F1, everything shows, so you can't get around anything. Yeah, all I can say is that there's meant to be tolerances. And if you're either end of the tolerance, it's a massive difference. And I mean, people can look at the Sector 1 of Spa 2020 if they want to, and you'll see why there was massive tolerances, and you'll see who had tolerances. But anyway, that's another story.
As Forrest Gump would say, that's all I have to say about that.
And that's all I have to say about
life's like a box of chocolates, just like whatever you get in your package.
In your Aero package, that's right.
But in the same time, I wouldn't complain because, you know, at the end of the day, like, you can still perform well in what you're doing. But like, okay, if I was this is one other thing for me that why I don't care so much about it, because my last year of F2 changed my career. Like, I wouldn't really be in the position I'm in if I didn't finish second in that championship.
Right.
I would say also,
can I just ask you a quick question about the team you were on? I mean, you just feel free to just say fuck off. I'm not going to answer that question. But like, I think didn't Joe, like, they added like a Joe named sponsor to your team? Like Joe, like it seemed like Joe was like funding the team. Like your teammate was putting more money into that team than obviously you were. How do you navigate that?
I cannot confirm or deny because I don't know the insides. I know what we brought to that.
Okay, sorry, keep going. Ignore me.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I just have to be political. Then no, how would you say it? Yeah, but that's more for his position than anything to do with anyone else.
Right.
So that's like, it happens more often than not, but for him to be able to have continuity with that team, that's the situation. They agreed.
Right.
I see.
I came in as a driver just to come and win in the championship, and my deal was my deal. That's how I would say it.
I got you.
Whatever he did was as a rookie from 2018 into 2019, and that would have been a longer term agreement. That's why.
Sure. But you were saying about that last year in Formula 2 where you finished second to Mick Schumacher, even though you had a couple of, like, you were right there and you had a couple of like DNF stuff that was out of your control that, like, you could have easily.
Yeah, I was never out the top 2 of the championship, so I was always there. I think 10 top 3s in qualifying, 5 or 6 poles. I don't know, a lot of it. I was fast.
Yeah.
We were watching Chasing the Dream.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Yeah. Let him finish.
We had some clutch issues, which, you know, everyone blames on me for stalling, but we had some problems with it. Like, there was a hydraulic issue that we didn't find until Mugello, which basically was just fucking me in the ass. but you know, everyone goes, oh yeah, how come you can't do the starts the same, or you're stalling this? And you go, well, I don't understand. I'm doing everything as it should, and it's just inconsistent as anything.
Right.
Um, but the thing for me that why, you know, it changed my career, and I'm happy to finish second, is the decision for F1 was already made before the championship was over. So as soon as I went from first, second in the championship towards the end, uh, then it was made that I wouldn't go to Formula One. And there was a lot of, should we say, movement, and it's not the way it seems. There's a lot of influence that people have and stuff, and I didn't have that, so it wasn't going to change what I was doing. Yes, maybe if I'd won in 2-3 years, I might have more favor because I'd won it and no one giving me a chance. But I don't, you know, it doesn't change it, I think. No.
Okay, so you say it was decided, like there was this Illuminati group of people that were like
In a boardroom, like
in a boardroom that was
hitting a
like,
gavel.
Ilott is out. Like, what do you mean he will not go to F1? What does that mean? You're so vague. It was decided.
I don't fit in with the current situation that they need. People
Right.
had contracts with certain things, so they had to go there, and then that meant that the only space was left, and the winner goes to that space, you know. And of course, as you all know, there's a German sponsor to Haas,
Right.
so it made sense.
Yeah.
And then the Russians deal was done quite early, and I mean, there's no way anyone can compete on a financial side. So I look, that's the way it goes. And
Yeah.
I mean, there are other teams that take financial things as well, but you need to financially be beneficial. You need to be a person, well, to a certain extent, that's beneficial to the team, and you need to be a fast driver. I was a fast driver. I was a person who has a mild benefit, but financially, I can only bring what people want to kind of bring with me. And if that is by someone else, you know, I can't compete with that, unfortunately.
Sure. So speaking of that, I mean, it's like, it's, you know, the path that people take into it. I mean, you have the people that come from the racing families, the racing dynasties that have like kind of this kind of like fuck you money. But like, how did you, like, when you first got into karting, like, how did that happen? Was there any of that in your family, or did you just kind of take to it and say, I want to do this one day?
So no one from my family, you know, my parents each on their own grew up very, very normally, and worked for what they got. And I was lucky to be even able to do karting. So I got the opportunity as a go-karting party. And I think I went to another one, and I told my dad I loved it or whatever. And then he went to the track, and someone said like, oh, you know, at the end of the day, if you're going to do a bit more driving, it's more cost effective to buy a go-kart. If you get this one, it will run for quite a long time. So then Wednesday nights after school, Saturdays, and then I was racing once every month, and twice a month, and 3 times a month. And then suddenly I'm in Europe, and then suddenly I'm in cars. It's not easy. Karting is stupid expensive, especially nowadays, but there were ways to do it for not that amount of money. Like we did it on a very small scale and made it work even internationally. Like I didn't work with a team like with a big team until 2014. I was doing my own thing, and we did well. That's why Nikita joined the team in like 2012, because we were winning everything at the time. And then we had multiple other guys. Like with me and Ollie Oakes, we made a successful karting team after 1 year, and had, I think, even like 3 or 4 kids joining. So yeah, no, there's ways to do it and ways to get a benefit. Of course, it's very hard to do it. And then when you get to cars, that's when, you know, you need the backing. I had Red Bull the first year, and then when that went away, it was like, shit, you need to reinvent the wheel, shall we say? And I had to survive on 1.5 years on my own.
So yeah, how do you, is that like, are you trying to go find sponsors yourself? Is that like you're getting like help from wherever you can? Or is that like how you talked about like you're keeping in touch with people. You're like, you know, making these connections. I think that we talked to a driver, Saber Cook, and she was talking about just kind of like, you know, having to, take meetings and be like, here's this is what I'm trying to do. Do you want to be a part of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I can't speak for when I was 2016. I would have been 17 or 18.
Yeah.
That was tough because I'm just a kid in a man's world in a certain sense. So you don't
Right.
really know how to make it work. I did okay, but yeah, without some help, I wouldn't have been able to make much of a difference on that side. Now, like looking at it, yeah, like if I had to stop racing tomorrow, I'm pretty sure I would be sorted because I know so many people to be able to do different work and
Sure.
make other types of, should we say, motorsports business work. So yeah, I'm not like on that side, I'm not worried. It's just getting everything to work for yourself is a tough one. When you need it at the right time, it's very difficult to get it.
But then Ferrari calls, right? And you get to join the Ferrari Driver Academy. So you went from talking to Helmut Marko. Are you now talking to Binotto? Is that correct?
No, there's at the time it was Massimo Rivola, who's now I believe the CEO or the team principal of Aprilia MotoGP. He was the boss of FDA at the time, and he came to a race in 2017 with Guan Yu Zhu, who was my teammate, or Joe. We call him Joe, but he was my teammate, and I'd qualified pole at this race in France, and I shunted it on the first lap when no one can overtake you on this track. And he pulled me to the side after this and was like, look, you need to stop doing that. It's just stupid. But like you're so incredibly fast, you don't need to do that. Like really, you don't need to do that. And you need to put yourself into a position where you just let it take you and don't overdo it. Don't push for too much. And then he was like, look, I really, on that side of things, I think we should speak later on in the year because I really, really want you as a driver. You're so incredibly quick. I haven't really seen many other people like that. And then, yeah, at the end of the year, we were doing another contract, and this one was a long one. So yeah, that went on for quite a while.
So yeah, like
I joined. You have like mixed feelings about that.
Look, no, it's bittersweet because it was a journey. I mean, without them, I probably wouldn't have been able to do Formula 2. That was for sure, and 2019 and 2020. But it's when you can't finalize the end of a journey, it's tough because it was 4 or 5 years of my life, and to not achieve the result that we signed up to do, which was Formula 1. From both sides, it's not the best. You don't come away from that going, I accomplished my dreams. I'm a successful racing driver, but I haven't done what I wanted to on that side.
It's interesting. So I wanted to ask you, so you took this thing that was like inherently like unfair in a way, because you talk about there's like other factors beyond merit, and it seems to me like you've kind of used it as a way to be like, well, it was out of my control. So you were able to sort of shrug it off. And like, I guess we're two people, we work in Hollywood, and like, we haven't achieved all the things that, that we've wanted to do. And I guess you've had to sort of reckon with modifying expectations at such a young age. I guess, what's your advice to people like, and like, how do you maintain your love of a sport or a love of like, how do you maintain your love of something that's been so, how do you maintain
politicized and
so
taken
politicized,
taken away from the essence of like what you fell in love
is
with in the beginning? Yeah.
Okay, there's lots of things on that one. So I'll start with the first one. Look, like it's tough and it hurts when it doesn't go your way. And when you've worked hard for something and worked for a long time, it's really pisses you off. And especially on 2 repetitive years when you think you have a chance and you don't get a chance. That's not easy. And then seeing other people be able to go there and do it rightly or wrongly, that's tough. But the other thing that everyone learns is life is not fair. Whether it's racing or it's school or the next job interview you end up taking, there'll always be someone more fortunate or in a better position, and you just have to learn from it. So like all these things, I look at it and go, how can I put myself in the best position to make sure I get that or I do that? And yeah, on an F1 side, maybe I don't have the power to be able to do it. It's a bit of a shark tank, and you have to be one of the strongest in the environment to do it. But in the IndyCar paddock, how do I put myself in a position where people go, shit, we're going to give this guy because he can do all this stuff, and I do things the tough way, and to then go on to the side of thinking of like, how do you maintain the love for it? I love driving. I love driving anything, whether it's a golf buggy or an Indy car or a Formula 3 or car. I love driving it. Racing and competition is one thing, and I enjoy that. Politics is something I've been more and more getting into, and business and all of that. And that's a thing that, unfortunately, I learned myself, and it takes time. Whereas some people had their fathers to set everything up and put everything in a position, and maybe they get the short-term benefit. Maybe I look at it and go, these guys who maybe beat me to F1 will get 1, 2, 3 years in Formula One, and then we'll hit a roadblock, and I'll be in IndyCar for 10, 12 years, earning more money, having more results, more fun, more time off, because we get 4 or 5 months off, and they in F1 you get 1 month maybe maximum. You got to look at everything as a total and go, I don't have to deal with the Drive to Survive or the bullshit media hounding down my neck for every mistake I make. Like it's tough to deal with. I feel sorry for some of the guys on a certain sense. I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to deal with going out to a restaurant and being spotted in public with other people. I'm good. I'm enjoying life as a professional racing driver. Probably earning more money than I would in F1 right now on the contracts I would have been on.
So let's talk a little bit about your IndyCar move. How has it been? What was when you made that decision? Because I think from I've heard in other interviews, you were kind of like you kind of saw the landscape and you were like, wait, there's this other thing over here. This is a great opportunity for me. How's it been? How's been the adjustments to ovals? I know you had a crash at the 500 this year, but can you talk a bit about how's America? How's it adjusting to America? Are you based in Indianapolis? Like where are you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So I mean everything in total. The original decision, I was on holiday in Sicily with my girlfriend, and I just called Fred Vasseur on the Monday to understand where we were with F1, and
hell yeah,
that didn't go well. And he's like, look, I think you should explore other options. You still have a chance, but it's just I would look at other things. I was like, okay, that's a bit shit, but I respect the fact that you're telling me, whereas other people don't tell me and just leave you to kind of suffer. And then the next day, my manager sends me a text. He's like, there's an opportunity in IndyCar with this new team. The guy wants to have a call. Can we arrange it for tomorrow? And I go, okay, yeah, sure. I start to look up and I go, okay, they've just done this, and let's hear how it goes. And actually end of 2019 or 2020, I had a call from Dale Coyne anyway, so I kind of got the idea of how IndyCar works. But the problem is most people normally need to bring money and get it up and running. So I was like, I can't do that. I'm done at this point. Like I will need to do GTs. So anyway, then I have this conversation with Ricardo, and he talked for 55 of the 1 hour, 55 minutes of the 1 hour, and I was sat there going, okay, I see where this is going. Like obviously I have to see when I get over there. So I think out of everyone he spoke to, I was probably the first to kind of go, you know what, fuck it, I'll do it. I have nothing else. I have a year in between potential hypercar stuff and that. Let's give it a go and see where we're at. And then, I ended up doing 1 race and then agreed to do 3 races. I cancelled 2 FP1s to do those 2 races. So I completely just sent the F1 stuff aside and was like, look, I think that's where the career is. And yeah, I probably in the last 4 or 5 years been the first driver to get paid in the first year of IndyCar, which was an achievement. And the thing is, like, it's tough. We're a very small team. It's tough as it is on your own because you've got nothing to compare to. When you've got all these teams with Will Power, Scott Dixon, Scott McLaughlin, all of that, and they're all sharing data, you can always find stuff in the data. I've just got me, so I have to come in from a session going, oh, how can I go quicker? I think I can do that. Right. And then you go and do it. And then, like we put it on the front row at the last race in Laguna, and it just shows where we got to with what we had. But as a competition, it's so bloody hard. Like freaking 24 cars that can probably be in the chance of like finishing top 5, top 3. And then probably all within 8, 9 tenths. You've got development on the damper side, so there's quite a big difference between the cars. And then you've got these ovals which bite you in the ass if it goes wrong. Right. And adjusting to that, I like the short ovals, the super speedway stuff. It's so much about the car. Like you obviously test the car all the way through the week and get it right in the window. But again, doing that on my own, we missed stuff when the temperature was at the same temp as the race. And then that's at the end of the day what costs you in the race, and the car becomes light at certain points in the stint because you didn't test around that because you only had one car and it wasn't in the right window at the time. And yeah, it's an interesting one, and there's a lot to it that doesn't show when you just see them turning left and going around. But I have a lot of respect for the good teams and the good drivers who just nail it with that stuff. But it's not an easy thing to get thrown into.
Right. Are there any in terms of the Indy world? Because growing up in the States, it would be on. I feel like I knew Tony Kanaan. I knew I was very aware of. I didn't even know that Formula One existed, and I was just like, I just knew that Tony Kanaan was like the guy. Mm-hmm. Who are, in terms of like the camaraderie? Is there a difference in terms of like the camaraderie around like what's the difference in culture between like the on your way to F1 and then with IndyCar?
There's two things that kind of come to mind. So one is that we spend a lot of time with each other personally, because around the races, sometimes you have the motorhomes, RVs, where you spend a lot of time together, especially around the 500. The other thing is that we're made to really be pushing each other hard in the races. So you're kind of almost encouraged to do wheel-to-wheel contact, which is a first for me. As long as you do it in the right way. And one of the things that stood out was in one of the Indy road course races. I got run off the road like multiple times on the first couple laps, but everyone was kind of doing it. So like it wasn't only me who ended up getting pushed off. And I think the last one to do it was VK. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, like I can't. That's the last time I go around the outside of someone because they just keep putting you off. And I managed to get around the outside of him on turn 1 and for the inside of turn 2. And he kept it on the outside in turn 2, and I ran him off, and it ended up him causing him to retire. And I felt a bit bad for that, the end result of that, but not for running him off, but just because of the fact he had to retire. And so I went up to him for quite a while afterwards and was like, "Oh, sorry, mate, but at the end of the day, you did it to me, so like I did the same." And he's like, "Oh, it's fine. I shouldn't have put myself on the outside." I'm like, "I like this. I like that," because in F1 or Europe or whatever, it end up in a big argument because everyone believes they're right.
How is that culture so different? Just because you're encouraged to go wheel to wheel like that?
It's a respect. I think at the end of the day, we're pretty much all professional drivers. We're all there paid to be pushing each other like crazy, and it's encouraging the wheel to wheel stuff. So F1's a bit different because if you touch someone, there's a good chance, unless you're Alonso flying up in the air, the car won't be okay. Yeah. Like normally it's not okay by the end of it. But these cars, they're strong. They take that contact. So yeah, you're kind of put people in positions they wouldn't normally be in other categories, and it's kind of their fault for being in that position, and everyone knows that.
And what's the vibe? How are you feeling as a Englishman living in Indianapolis?
Yeah, okay, going on to this. Indy is a weird one. In the winter, I'm not a big fan. It's way too cold and just uninhabitable. In the summer, it's good fun. It's a good lifestyle. Everyone's quite jolly and all nice people around there. The other thing for me was like I surprisingly have quite a few friends in the US anyway. So being able to spread out and see all those guys is great fun. So I enjoy it a lot. There's so much accessibility in different environments and different cultures within the US. And the other thing is like, yeah, it's very intense the season. So from February, March, you're in the US till September. But then after that, I've been free. Like I can literally just go and do whatever the fuck I want. And no one's gonna bother me. I can do things, interviews, whatever, when I want to. If I said, okay, I'll do this in January, you know, it's not a big problem. Whereas F1, every 5 minutes I'm having to do something. If I'm not in the toilet, I'm doing an interview or I'm doing a meeting. Like
Right.
there's no way around it. So that's super nice about it. And I have a good setup in the US. Everything's kind of easy for me. So yeah, I enjoy it a lot.
How does
I'm
Indianapolis
excited to go back.
Our Alex wants to know, how does Indianapolis compare to living in Maranello?
Better. Yeah.
Better.
So Maranello is excellent for the food. Excellent. I mean, nothing gets better. But it was so boring because you know, like if it was made for families and workers, right? It's Monday to Friday, and to be honest, most of those guys don't leave the factory until 10 p.m. anyway. Like they're working like crazy, so there's no time for free time. So of course there's nothing to do, and if they do have free time, they're cycling. Like that's what every male does who is working there. I mean, there's just cyclists everywhere on the Saturday, Sundays. So for me, I'm not a big fan of cycling. I don't really want to get knocked off, and I haven't got the legs for it either. But we had some things, and you know, if you were doing the sim on occasion, that was good. But around that, you're the only things you can really do are going to the gym, and you can't do that for every hour of the day. So,
okay, some other lifestyle things. Favorite
Yeah.
or race, like favorite track of all the tracks of all the, you know, F1 tracks.
Suzuka, Macau, and Silverstone.
Suzuka, Macau, and Silverstone. Why are they just are they the hardest, most challenging, most dangerous? Or
Silverstone's super challenging in a certain sense. It's high speed, lots of connecting corners, decent enough overtaking, and it's a home race. Suzuka, because it's Japan. Japan's awesome, and it's super high speed, long lap, has a bridge over connecting, and yeah, just a good track. I drove that in an F3 car. And then Macau, I mean, you have to look up an onboard, and the crashes in Macau, it's just mental, and I love that place.
Okay, then from favorite track from just outside the track weekend vibes, like favorite place to go,
like a favorite place to like be there for the weekend, like the most fun.
I mean, Vegas would be a good one when that comes, but sure. I would say, can you hear that, by the way, or is that...
It's okay.
Yeah, but it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Okay. I would say that Tokyo, Japan is great.
It's not a big. It's really not a big deal.
Yeah, okay. It's fine.
Sorry.
It's all good.
Tokyo, Japan is great. Italy is always good fun, but it's not like the party aspect. Monaco, every time I leave that place, absolutely destroyed.
What's the like? Are the drivers just have Tinder like all day? What's the Tindering like for the drivers?
No, so I'm in a relationship for 18 months now. But
you're like, what is Tinder? I've never heard of Tinder.
But no, it's more difficult now because like I don't think you couldn't. There's no way you get away with that shit.
Right.
So you can't do that as a driver, even if you know take a single. Okay, driver A from F1, right?
Nice.
Because I don't want to use examples.
Okay.
if you're on Tinder, there will be people screenshotting it and all over the place. Yeah, I think we saw after one Britishman recently broke up with his girlfriend that the next day there's something called McDonald's Gate and in Holland. Like you know, and I feel so sorry for the dude because you know at the end of the day, his private chat's been exposed with someone that you know at the end of the day he just wanted to take for a date. Whether his game was good or not, it doesn't matter. You know, you were trying to have a conversation with someone. Like, fuck's sake, like you know, I would respect the privacy of some people. So it doesn't work well. It's definitely not the easiest thing to do. That's why I think it's just Instagram nowadays for them, and they quite like to keep it private in that sense.
Okay.
Nothing.
Well, speaking of that anonymous driver, I know that you and Oscar Piastri are buds.
Yeah, we went to the same school.
Okay, so but he's from Australia.
Yeah,
but he went to the school in the UK.
Yeah, it was quite a few years difference, but yeah, so I went to this school in the UK and they were very good for giving me time off and making my life easy. And then Jahan Daravala, another F2 driver, joined. And then Devlin Di Francesco from Andretti IndyCar joined. Then another younger driver, and then Clement Novalak from F2 joined, and then Oscar Piastri joined.
Tell us what anonymous driver should expect from Oscar
next year. How do you forecast?
He wasn't driver A. He was then McDonald's Gate. Separate.
No. He was
all right.
No, so okay, we'll move on.
How do you see Lando? How do you see that battle at McLaren next year? What do you predict that's gonna look like?
Look, Oscar's a quick kid. I don't think until F2 he didn't stand out for his speed. Like he was just always solid and always there, which is why he won all the championships. But then he got to F2 and I think again something clicked, maybe with the car, and he was quick. So I don't know if he'll get there straight away with the speed, but definitely on the other stuff, he's a smart kid and a super nice kid as well. But Lando is you know, you've got Max, you've got Lando, you've got George, you've got Charles as like all the quick guys, and you put them in the same car. I mean, it would be argumentative to see who is the quickest one out of them. Obviously, there was a lot of other quick guys as well, but I'm just talking about the ones I grew up with.
So you put them all at the same tier.
Yes, yeah, for different things, but I mean, those guys are all within 0.2 of each other, in my opinion. All. And that depends on the day as well. Oscar, it's hard to see because he's young. He's just flown through everything. I
predict a learning curve. You predict a learning curve.
Yeah, a good one. But you know, as well. Everyone's putting pressure on him. I feel a bit sorry for him because it's not. It wasn't like how how he was told. He wasn't a dick. He didn't be dishonest to anyone. There wasn't a contract, so he went looking for a contract and got a contract within the time. They were going to give Alonso the seat. Alonso went somewhere else. So at that time, he was obviously thinking he's going to go somewhere else. So he sorted it out for himself. Of course, there's a few more little details than that. But in a general sense, I mean, if you don't have a contract, what do you go and do?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You go and find a contract. So I feel sorry for all the pressure that everyone's putting on him because at the end of the day, he's just gone and got the best contract he could.
See, to a moron like me, I look at, he won F3 his rookie year. He won F2 his rookie year. Like that's basically what like Leclerc did and George Russell did. And that's that's like what all the noobs say, right? Is he's done the same thing that those guys
he's going to
did,
come in and have like a Hamilton type rookie year where he's just like on.
He could. He could. He has the
yeah.
potential to do it. I wouldn't put him in that position. I wouldn't want to put him in that position. I think he would obviously expect as much as possible, but I would estimate. I would say my personal side. I think they'd be happy with him if he was within 3-4 tenths of Lando, because then you go, that's a solid start, and there's a lot to go from that.
Personality wise, though, is he gonna be like Lewis and try to be top dog? immediately?
I think he's chilled. I think he won't ever say anything. He'll just be like, I'm just gonna do my job and that's it. Let's see how it goes. That'll be him.
It's a great
Well,
insight. Speaking
so
of,
on August 2nd, you said lots of drama in motorsport this year on Twitter, and this was about a few weeks before all the Oscar Piastri stuff happened. Did you know something that we didn't know?
I think that was around the Palou stuff.
Okay.
But you don't understand, but this Palou thing affected everything.
I see.
Everything. So it's affected also on the Formula E side. It affected on the F1 side to a certain extent. Not by who they were going to choose. I think they were always going to choose Piastri, but it knocks off. It's a certain way that everything just follows through on that. But it definitely affected more than just the IndyCar side and put everything on hold. I mean, even me, I had
to our
conversations
listeners,
with people I wouldn't have.
there was Zach Brown did what he did with Piastri in IndyCar.
In IndyCar.
But he was even more egregious because Palou had a real contract, right?
Yes, but the problem is if you have Team A and Team B, and Gyra is contracted to Team A, right? But he goes to Team B and says, "Yeah, I want a contract from you guys. I'm free." Well, that contract is confidential. So unless he puts that in front of you and you get to read it yourself, that guy's told you that he's free. So it's a bit of a tricky one where, until everything's put in a court of law and you can see what is in those things to a certain extent, I think in the middle it's gone wrong.
Zach Brown was made to look like a bad actor there, but he might not have even known. You're implying?
Look, I think he made some aggressive plays, but I don't know the answer to all of that stuff. But there's a bit more. There's some aggressive plays, and there's also some unknowns for sure.
All you know is that there was a lot of drama in motorsport.
Yeah. And then I heard the other stuff, and I knew some stuff was about to, shall we say, go down on the F1 side. I wasn't sure how it was going to play out. I think 1 or 2 days before it was announced, I messaged Oscar "Is this correct what I'm hearing?" And he was like, "Well, probably." And again, vaguely, and I was like, "Oh shit, okay." And then I sent him a message. I was like, "I hope you have some good lawyers." And he's like, "Don't worry, it's all fine." So then at that point, I was like, "All right."
Oh wow! Speaking of people, we don't know Joe very much. He's been he was your teammate. We don't know. The media hasn't really been paying it. The Western media hasn't been paying much attention to him. All we know did he have so much drip when you knew him?
Yeah. Was the style like it is now? Yeah.
He loves a couple of things in life, and shoes was always his first thing. He loves some good shoes. And then second thing is football. But I don't know if he still enjoys it as much as he did. But he loved FIFA. Was playing FIFA? But yeah, no, the shoes, yeah. But I think when he was doing this deal with Prada, he was very excited about it. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna look so cool," or something like this. And I'm just like, your definition of cool is not my definition, but you go for it, mate. Enjoy it. But you know what? I like him, and I like Lewis in the sense that, look, I don't have the confidence to be able to do what they do when they walk wearing that stuff. I couldn't do it. But fair play for just pulling it off and sending it, because it's so individual, in a certain sense.
Right. Well, you talked about you're like when I was 15, I'm meeting with Helmut Marko. You're like, if I went back now, I'd wear a full clown outfit and just be like, "What's up? I'm confident."
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that will work with him. Maybe with some other people.
That's really his vibe.
Yeah.
No.
He wouldn't be like, "Is that Balenciaga?"
No. I mean, maybe that works with him if you wear that stuff. I don't know, being controversial.
Wait, so before you went, you did so you said you missed some FP1s. Are those how much do those actually matter? Are they watching you closely? Being like, how fast is he going in FP1 in this car?
Look, it's a difficult one because everyone's always watching. It's like they'll say to you before you get in the car, look, we don't care. Just get the data for us and be calm and quiet. We want you to just enjoy. But at the same time, everyone's looking, everyone's watching and going like, oh, what can this kid actually do? And I remember my first FP1 in Portimao, I was 1/10 off Kimi on the C1 or C2 tire, the harder tire.
Mhm.
And then we went to the soft tire and I was 4/10 off him, but I did it on my second push. So the tire was only meant to be a one push at the time because we didn't get the temps right. And I came in and they were like, that's mega. And I'm like, okay, but you guys were like meant to be relaxed. So what is this so much?
So, and are you like, are you even going as fast as you can? Or are you like, I can't fucking crash this car?
You're pushing, yeah, like to a good amount, but of course, remember, it's not. I don't know the car. Like I've only done it on the sim. Like my problem with the FP1s was I was driving once every 2 months in a single seater. I was doing GTs the rest of the year, so I'd get in these things, and I'm like, holy fuck, it's so fast. And you're kind of getting used to it again. And I had this problem with where I was sat because of where Kimi was sat. He was so low. I was sat slightly higher and my head was bouncing like this. So then your neck's fucked by the end of the session because you're trying to keep your head up in a straight line, let alone in the corners.
Was Kimi super helpful to you? Was he very communicative with you?
I mean, it's Kimi. What do you expect? No. Kimi was always nice to me. He was very interested when I was going to IndyCar, like, what's it like? What's going on? But no. On that side, it was very interesting to listen and see how he behaves on a car side and what his feedback is. But no, Giovinazzi, he was very helpful with me. Also, I was meant to do an FP1 with Haas in 2020, and I was sat next to Roman, and the weather was shite. And he first thing he goes, "Oh, thank fuck you're driving and not me, because I wouldn't want to drive with that." I'm like, that is not helpful at all. And Gunter just grilled me like 10 minutes before for like, he's like, what we don't want to do is crash. All you got to do is drive. And then the engineer comes to me. He's like, yeah, look, unfortunately, it's not just an install. If we do go out, you need to do 3 or 4 laps on the inters to get us to have the allocation for the inters for the next sessions. So otherwise they get thrown away. But it was like the weather was bad enough for wets.
Right.
So like inters, number one, wouldn't have worked because it was too wet and it was too cold for the inters. So the operating temperature wouldn't have worked for all 3 laps. So it would have been a disaster, but I would have had to have done 3 laps for it. So yeah, I was just like, oh, this was a bad day. And then luckily it got cancelled. So it was all right.
There we go. So you mentioned it was like, holy shit, this is fast. Was there a, like, in terms of all the cars you've driven, is there the levels of between now Indy, F2, and then the Formula One cars? Like, what are the notable differences between driving the 3?
Indy and the F2 are quite similar, very different in the tires. So you're sliding the Indy car and you're kind of not sliding the F2. The Indy car's a bit quicker, especially in a straight line, but very similar tendencies because it's very similar chassis, just different weight distribution. Then the F1 is just another level. I mean, like, the power is so linear and it's pretty much 1,000 horsepower now. So you're just pulling through every gear. You feel like you're still accelerating. And then you arrive to these corners and like the thing just stops, but you can still turn whilst you're stopping. Whereas with the F2, you have to do everything you'd have to brake, wait till you finish the braking, and then be able to turn, and then you have to get it straight to then be able to go on the gas. In a certain sense, I mean, it's not as simple as that. But then the F1, you brake later than the F2. You're still braking and turning, and you're like, shit, it's gripping. Right. And then you're on full throttle before you'd be on full throttle in an F2 with 40% more power.
Wow.
And then you've got all these buttons and people telling you shit, and it's just cool, isn't it? It's like spaceship.
Yeah. So within the, sometimes we've talked about the physical demands of driving, and you're speaking a little bit about the Formula One, the demands of the car are a little bit higher. But sometimes we see certain drivers of the different physical fitness ratios, and sometimes they're like, we're hiking through the Alps, and we're like, and Pierre Gasly's on this, like, it looks like he's getting ready to like be in an Avengers movie.
Yep.
How much of that is for the car, and how much of that is because he's trying to have the six pack on Instagram?
I think it's different for everyone, because I have this thing where like there was me and Marcus Armstrong in Ferrari, and we lived together, and he would train on the bike for like 2 to 3 hours a day, and then do an hour or 2 hours in the gym separate to the bike, and like that was every day. And if he didn't do that, he'd feel bad. And there's me who would just do the allocated gym sessions, and like just that was it. I don't love the gym. I kind of hate it, but I also don't mind it in a certain way.
A Yuki Tsunoda approach to
almost. And I remember we had Red Bull Ring, and I won the race, and there was a safety car like 10 laps to go, and I pulled like 10 seconds on him in 10 laps. And after the race, I was like, dude, what the like, why are you so fucking slow? And I was like, was it massive tire deck? He's like, no, I couldn't turn. And at that point, I was like, okay, so the fittest guy I know driving the same thing, obviously, the cars are slightly different, but it can't be that bad. He struggled with it, and I didn't. I then looked at it and was like, maybe there's, and then there was another one actually. So that was one thing where you go, okay, so it's more about like how you are in the car, maybe with the breathing, maybe with the stress that you have, and everyone's a bit different. And then car slightly. But then 2017, I did one off F2 race in Silverstone, and my teammate that weekend was training for triathlons or even an Ironman at the time, like ridiculously fit. He came in, he was fucked. And I'm like, I just jumped in this car. I'm a little bit dehydrated because it was an hour, but I'm fine. Like, what the fuck? How? So I think and that was in the same car. So I think it's more a personal thing about how you are in the car and how much you relax and just be at one with the car.
Right.
But yeah, there's these guys who also the whole thing is a media perspective as well. Like you've got to be the best looking person there is, otherwise you'll get told off, or your sponsors won't love you or whatever. So it's a bit of everything.
Gotcha. So we're kind of maybe wrapping up. We'll let you go soon, but something within the there was this whole thing this year with Colton Herta, with the super license points and Indy and kind of like that path. And I know that's definitely like a thing that has people been discussing, being like, is this fair? Why wouldn't this racing series, which is a professional racing series, not grant you access to that? We had Mario Andretti on the podcast, and he was talking about back in the day that he was in Indy, and he was like, when there was a F1 seat, he was just like, I can just jump right in because it was there. How are your, I think I've heard you talk a little bit about like that kind of dynamic. What are your thoughts on it?
I did quite a few interviews on this one. So I look at it and go, look, there's a single seater ladder that we all did in Europe, and it gives X amount of super license points, but I have a super license. No one fucking wants me, right? I'm a fast driver. I have a super license. No, in a realistic sense. So I have this thing that, everyone else needs, and it doesn't make a difference to me.
Could you sell it? You could sell it to Colton. How much do you pay for it?
I could. It's quite expensive per year, I think, but you get the money back if you don't use it. So, but yeah. So then for him, the team obviously were very keen to have him and wanted him. And I if a team wants you or needs you, it's either for 3 reasons. You're either really, really fast and you're a generational talent. You can bring it's probably 2 reasons. Yeah, you can bring something to the team that they need, right? And if that's finance and they need a driver for that, there's a reason they've got to take that. Of course, there's a point, but now they're all making so much money from how well F1 is doing. I don't think that's really as necessary as it was in past years. But if they wanted him, I don't understand why having 5 less points, because we run a super competitive championship which does ovals as well, why he can't qualify for that. So I did feel a bit sorry for him on that. And you may only get that opportunity. Like I didn't get the opportunity as of yet. And he may not get another opportunity because the world doesn't align like that. And plus they've got an American driver now as well. So you never know how it goes in the future. So I do feel sorry, but at the same time, he enjoys Indy and he was kind of content with whatever happens. But if someone's good enough, why does it really matter? We've had better drivers and we've had worse drivers. I mean, who cares?
He wasn't even the best driver. He's not even. Maybe I know I sound like an idiot, but like there are better IndyCar drivers than Colt. No.
Yeah, but that's arguable because at the end of the day, the teams you have to be perfect every weekend, and I'd say that this year, last year, they didn't maximize it at every single track. It's questionable to say, but on road course and street circuits only, he was third in the standings, which was enough to qualify for a super license. But because of the ovals, they had a few bad weekends. You drop down. But I rate him a lot as a driver. He's definitely fast. You could say that he might struggle a bit on a consistency side because there's such a knife edge car to drive in F1. If it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. But that's a risk that the team are willing to take. They've seen him and they were happy to do that. So I think he would have been easily good enough to go into Formula One, and there would have been no argument about
that. Who, like, if other than Callum Ilott, who is like the person that you're like, I can't believe this guy's on F1?
Honestly, I think it's tough because we're both in the same position and very competitive against each other. But in a certain way, I have a lot of respect for him and how quick he is. That would be Schwartzman. Because he's got a lot of raw speed, but we're both in the same position that there was no space and no one was willing to put you in a position to even show yourself. Other than that, I mean, there are guys like Robert Frines who, if you look at his single-seater record, is incredible, and he didn't get a chance with Red Bull. Antonio Felix da Costa, those two, they were both Red Bull guys. They're incredible. I would have said them, but in my world, everyone who I went, they'll probably made it. So it's a bit shitty that I didn't get to do it yet, but I'm still working on it. Maybe in a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Nick DeVries and you're like, holy shit, anything's possible.
Yeah, no, he does give me a little bit of hope. But I think the thing is now I want to focus on the IndyCar side. It's a bit of it's a good career. I've got a good path. I think, if I can achieve benefiting Juncos and getting them into a position where we can fight for some wins, that would be great. If I can't get to that point, and I've given it my all, it would be nice to get 1 or 2 years in a established team that is up there fighting for it and be able to show that I can probably win the championship if everything goes well, and then at that point see if I can get back to F1.
And
or I might stay. It might be good.
Sure. I mean, you're 24, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
you're 20. But you talk like you're like 97.
You're like, I've been around.
I'm sorry, I'm too boring. I mean, like you said at the beginning, I've done everything. So
yeah. You've been around for a long time. Well,
now everyone comes to me for advice. All the young ones are all like, "What do I do?" I'm like, "I should pay you. I should get paid for this."
Yeah. Sure.
Well, so I guess, do you have any advice to our young listeners that are, following their dreams, whatever they may be, and might have a setback or two?
Yeah, look, everyone has setbacks. I think that you've got to enjoy what you do, or at least find people that you can enjoy it with. I would say that you have to have unachievable goals, because there's a certain thing called, should we say, gold medal depression, right? Which is when people work all the way to something and that's all their life. So an Olympic athlete, and you achieve gold, and say Michael Phelps, you achieve it 8 times. What do you do after that? You have nothing else that you can achieve. I would say that, pushing yourself beyond what you think is achievable, because you just got to keep going even once you do that. that would be one thing, and it sounds really stupid beyond what your expectations would be, but that even if you do achieve those things, you've like I look at things now and I go, what else do I do? Like you need to look at things. It's a good problem to have, but also at the same time it's a very real problem. Then on another side, you've got to find happiness in the smaller things, because a lot of things in life don't go the way they want, whether it's an exam or again the job application or whatever. It just doesn't present itself in the way you think. And I look at a lot of things and go, oh shit. So I think putting all those things together, just striving for a bit more.
Okay, I think this was fantastic. So one last question to give a little bit of light. You mentioned we usually end this show with we say hello Vankas, we say goodbye Vankas at the end, which is a reference to Gunter Steiner, who is the reason that we're here because of season 1, episode 1 Drive to Survive.
Yeah.
You mentioned Gunter being like, "Don't crash my car." Any other Gunter stories?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think. No. I mean, he's a very nice guy. I think he has a very good camera personality. And it's true, it does change slightly when he comes in front of a camera. I'd say he's just a nice guy.
Okay,
just a nice guy.
Okay.
He's got his book coming out, hasn't he? Survive to
he
Drive.
does. That was just announced today. Yeah, I saw that. And then if you're starting a team right now, you're a team principal. You can't drive.
Yeah.
Who are your 2 drivers? Who's your reserve?
I'd take Verstappen and Lando. They get along and they're super fast.
Nice.
And then the reserve. I mean, they've got Ricardo and Red Bull right now. That would be all right. But yeah, maybe Danny.
All right.
He's the first one that comes to mind. Yeah, I think the reserve. I mean, I've been there. It's not that important.
Yeah, sure.
You've got me for another 5-10 minutes.
That's fucking brutal. You're like, hey, you guys want to be reserve driver? Like, I throw you guys in there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a shame because it's kind of glorified.
So to all those Daniel Ricciardo fans that are like, oh, this is it. He's gonna sneak back in there. What do you think?
You've got a year to do it, so there's a possibility he can do it. It's tough after the 2 years he's had, but I mean, the reserve ain't going to change much. Like reserve doesn't. I think unless you get a De Vries opportunity, and you shine. Like I was reserve for 1 year, and unfortunately, I was 50% of the races, and the weekends that there was COVID, I was not assigned to those weekends, and I didn't get the opportunity. And I'm in America now, so it can change. But Danny Ricky with it, Red Bull was a good home. They know how talented he is. I really don't know what happened in McLaren, whether it's Lando really hitting another level or Danny, unfortunately, I don't know, not performing at his best.
Right.
Yeah, it's a tough one. One.
He's got to hope that somehow Nicholas Latifi ends up on the team and then the other guy gets COVID or something, because that's clearly the way to go. Well,
and haven't you got some online questions? I think I saw something on Twitter.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we had some Twitter questions. Someone was asking about if you like peanut butter. Apparently, there's a British thing that Brits don't like peanut butter. Peanut butter and jelly. You're not a big fan.
No, I don't think it's bad, but it's not something I go, oh, I really want some.
Okay. So, your Mario Kart character. Do you play it?
Toad and on the bike.
Okay. Toad on the bike.
How are you at like basic ass racing?
Yeah,
games,
like do you play like the F1 game? Like does it translate?
I wouldn't say I'm bad, but like I'm not as good as some people are. We did a lot of this esports stuff in 2020, and you'd go like you'd be racing against the other drivers and be like, "Oh, I beat your time," and then they put you against this esports guy, and he makes you feel like a fucking
Yeah.
rookie, and you're
Really?
like, how the fuck can you be 7/10 quicker? I mean, what are you doing that's 7/10 quicker? And then
Does it
he's
make
like,
you
oh yeah,
think?
you have to use 2 gears down in this corner. I'm like, the engine doesn't even rev that high. Fuck off.
Yeah. So do you think? Does it make you think that some of these esports guys are actually like could be the next Lewis Hamilton, or not at all?
You never know. Like, and this is the thing when someone no, but these dicks at school would go, well, if I did racing, I might be better than you. And I go, well, maybe, yeah, but you didn't, did you? And I've raced karting against a couple of these guys who now do esports, and they were good, but like, were they exceptional? No. Um, they're just, yeah, but when you look at the esports stuff, I think they put one of the esports guys on the sim at an F1 team. Politically, I won't disclose, but they were surprisingly good. But the problem is they drive in such a way that's like not normal. So unless they drive in a specific way that matches the driver, it's kind of pointless. He may be quicker, but then they have to set the car up with a ridiculous setup because this guy just
He's used to, yeah,
is
not actually being in the car. Like this works on
exactly.
the video game, but it doesn't actually work in real life.
Yeah, and that was one of the problems they have. But yeah, they're definitely quick, and I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem jumping into a car and being all right. But again, like I said, it's the last couple tenths, It's when all these kids ask me like, how would I be if I go to IndyCar? And I go, well, to some, yeah, you might be all right. To others, I go, well, yeah, you'd be all right, but you'd be finishing 25th because everyone's so tight. Like,
Right.
if you're 2/10 off me, well, I'm mid pack at the moment because of where I am. 2/10 is P23, mate.
If F1 went online, do you think like Max and Charles and those guys would still be ahead, or do you think like?
Well, there was a good one during lockdown where George he got a different rig in between two races and went from being like P3 P4 to now suddenly winning by a mile. And I was like, George, how? Like, he's like, oh, just talent, mate, talent. And I go, fuck off, talent. I mean, you could have been practicing a lot, but there's no way it's that much. And then it turns out one of the esports guys came to Ferrari from Mercedes, and he was like, yeah, I spent like 3 weeks setting up his sim rig so that it could show the slip angle with the feeling of the wheel, so he can always be under the slip angle. It makes it like 4/10 quicker. And I'm like, I get it now. I get it. But George wasn't bad before that, but then became unrealistic. So I think Max is really fucking good on the Sims. So is Lando. Charles is naturally very good on it, but I don't know if he'd never take it as seriously as the other two. And then George is a good guy, but a lovely little try hard on these things. So he would probably be all right by the end of it. But I think I just look at it, and for the events that we did, and I finished third in one of them, and that was like I'd won the fucking thing. I'd trained for like 2 weeks non-stop, sweating like crazy in these smelly rooms to try and beat these kids.
Yeah, but like
Wow.
Lewis probably would finish like, would he finish dead last because he doesn't give a shit about those things?
Well, like I think they were doing some of these IndyCar ones, and like Will Power was like, I ain't turning up for that shit. Like, we're not doing it. And they're like, this is what's the word for it? Compulsory.
Yeah.
And of course, like 7 of the drivers are like, my internet doesn't work. Sorry. Or there was one I had us in a training for like the 24 hours of Le Mans virtual thing for Ferrari, and I think we were testing at Bathurst, and it was a 2-hour session, and I couldn't even complete one lap. I just kept losing it in that hill section, And I knew that I was never going to make the team anyway, so I unplugged the Ethernet and that was it.
Yeah,
there's
you're
a
chopping
great-
up.
there's a great clip where Lando's like talking about how he calls Max for advice, where he's like, I'm starting last on the grid in this esports thing. What should I do? He goes, you should
I think I've seen this.
you should unplug your computer and you should watch like Netflix or something. And like,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's not a big fan of the F1 game, Max.
yeah.
Gotcha. Any other questions, Matthew? There was one. Who would win in a fist fight, Grosjean or Rossi?
That was such a dumb question, I thought. But anyway.
But between them two,
Between the two of them,
Rossi's got some big arms. That guy can swing.
he can swing.
Okay.
I think Grosjean's a bit sneaky, so he wouldn't fight fair. But it's a fist fight, so I'd say Rossi.
And Grosjean's got the burnt hands now, so he probably doesn't fucking feel anything in them. He could just punch him and just be fucking like chilling.
Yeah.
I don't know. He definitely damaged the nerve endings with that, but I don't know. I should ask him actually.
Yeah.
Anything else, Matt? Or we're gonna let him go hang with his lads?
Let him hang with his lads. Yeah, and I don't. This was amazing.
I think that's it. Thank you so much for coming on. So we do this thing at the end of the pod.
Oh, do you have a great?
Anything?
Can you sing? You can sing. You're a great singer.
Not anymore.
You're told you can sing.
We were told you could sing.
No, so when I was 11, before my balls dropped, I was probably one of like 3 boys who could sing at soprano, soprano 1. So it's very, very high, like too high. And we won. Yeah, exactly. British Schools Choir of the Year. We won that year, and I had some talent, and then got a bit older and just went away, and I've run out of talent since then.
I could see you in One Direction, one of those British.
Probably would have been more successful.
So you can't.
But it's the gold star. But it's look at most of those guys other than Harry. It's that gold. It's the
gold medal
depression thing.
Yeah, I felt that same exact way when I hit 40. When we hit 40K on TikTok. But
yeah, we're like, what do we do now? So we end this pod. We say we enter with a good hello Vankas, and we end with a goodbye Vankas. So would you honor us with a goodbye Vankas?
Is it? Does he really say it with a V?
No.
Yeah,
does he go with a hard W?
Do it however you want.
However you want.
Okay, but on another. Okay, I don't want to overstep here, but in IndyCar that they pull the cars into the pit lane, right? And it's not like you don't drive out, obviously they pull it in. Do you know what they pull it on? It's called a tugger, right? A tugger in the UK is a nicer way to say wanker. So right. I mean, for you Americans, I'm surprised you don't say tuggers because it's a bit nicer. But all right, what was it? Hello, wankers.
Goodbye, Vankers.
Goodbye, Vankers.
Goodbye, Vankers.
Goodbye, Vankers. Where can people find you on your various social medias?
I'm very rarely on Instagram, very rarely on Twitter, very rarely on Insta.
You're pretty funny on Twitter.
What a plug.
You're pretty funny on Twitter.
I don't do it. I took a break from all that stuff. Sorry, I know we're dragging on, but
as a young kid, stay on as long as you want, King.
Sorry, mate.
No, you can linger. We just want to let you go, but we're here.
We're just we're trying not to hold you.
So no, as a kid, I was pushed so much to be social media, and you need to post this, you need to post that, and
right.
At some point you just go, what's the fucking benefit when you've got, okay, I've done well on social media for what was doing, but now I just I need a little bit of a break, want to focus on myself, and then I'll get back to it for next year. Right, guys, it's been lovely. I'm gonna go catch a cab.
Hell yeah.
Thank you, man.